Welcome to the Pushing Buttons Podcast, the weekly podcast where we talk about opinions, ideas, experiences, and concepts in video games. My name is Kevin.
I'm Robert.
And I'm Kyle.
And thank you for joining us. And we're just going to start talking about video games. That's what happens when you don't plan things.
That's what we're here for, right?
That is what we're here for.
That's why I'm saying after work.
We are. So a little behind the scenes, we stay after work on Fridays of all days, the day that most people want to just go straight home and start playing video games or get into their families or do whatever else they do but video games. And we stay here and talk to you all because we love it and we love you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for being there for us.
Yeah. Well, since last Friday, what have you guys been up to?
Let's see. I finished Gears of War 4 the other day. Finally.
Started Judgment yet?
No, I beat Judgment.
Was that before 4?
Yeah.
I need to learn. I need to get learned on
1, 2,
Gears.
3, Judgment, and then 4.
Judgment is the prequel.
Yeah.
I hate when games do that.
Yeah.
It's a pet peeve of mine.
Hey. Yeah, that game is gorgeous. Definitely doesn't live up to the standards of the first trilogy, in my opinion, but I had a lot of fun playing it. And then I was trying to figure out what my next game was going to be, and I got it down to 2. It's either going to be the Tomb Raider reboot or The Witcher 3, and I went with The Witcher.
Oh.
Because I've started it like 2 or 3 times.
I was going to say, can we take a vote between me and Kyle, but we would have still been 50-50 on it.
Probably, yeah.
But it's like the 3rd time I'm starting it, but I'm going to make myself actually go through it this time. And I never stopped it because I was...
You're doing Witcher 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Not the whole franchise.
No, just the 3rd one. And I never stopped playing it because I didn't like it. It was always because something else came out. But this time, I think I'm going to try to power through it and really play all of it. And it's gorgeous playing it on my 4K TV now.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
I still want to see a photo of your room with that 65-inch
I keep forgetting to do that. You mentioned that last week. And I was going to do it over the weekend.
How big of a TV do you have in your room?
65.
In your bedroom?
Yeah.
Damn.
Holy crap. I have a 65-inch in my living room.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Wow.
I'll try to do that.
How do you sleep at night?
I don't even think probably the TV off.
How do I sleep at night?
Yeah, because you
It's
probably
not on when I'm trying to
you
sleep.
probably see yourself in the reflection of the TV.
Well, that's how I sleep at night, is with a picture of Robert where a TV would go in my bedroom.
I thought it was on the ceiling, right above you.
That's where a TV would go, in my bedroom.
Naturally.
Yeah. Except I don't ever want a TV in my bedroom because I wouldn't ever sleep. I get hooked on stuff. I get hooked on TV. I have a very addictive personality.
Because I would
on TV shows.
I would play till late, and if I had it in the bedroom and just turn off the TV, go to bed, I would not sleep well.
Yeah.
Just like I do right now, anyway.
I used to have a TV in my bedroom whenever I was living in apartments because it was my getaway from roommates and stuff. And I've had some really good roommates, but I've had some really bad roommates as well. So I needed to get away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And then I do want to say I started watching Castle Rock on Hulu.
My fiance started watching that last
Did
night.
she?
Yeah. She watched the first episode.
What'd she think?
She said it's good so far.
Nice.
That's all she said.
Are you planning on watching it at any time?
I don't know. I don't know if I will. I'm not into Stephen King. I know that's like saying I'm not into eating bread, but...
To each their own.
Yeah.
It is a really well-done show. They dropped the first 3 episodes, and I watched all of them. And I'm a huge Stephen King fan, and it's cool how they're incorporating all the stuff from all of his books instead of just being an adaptation. It's a unique thing.
It's the Stephen King verse.
Yeah. And that's really good so far, so I wanted to...
What did I call it? Steven Universe.
That's what you said,
Universe, yeah.
Yeah, that's about all I did last week.
Fun.
Nothing new with me. Just, checking out WoW content as it comes out.
Did they fix that? Sorry to interrupt. Did they fix that full screen thing?
No, that's the main feature of the new expansion. So it's like permanent.
Oh, basically. It's a feature.
Yeah.
It's not an accidental bug.
No.
Accidental.
So, yeah. Anyway, the new quest content came out leading up to the new expansion. Kind of underwhelming, not really engaging, more of the same, nothing new there. I've been more excited about seeing the new Hearthstone cards coming out next month.
Do they try to release Hearthstone content around the same time as main WoW content?
No.
Okay.
They have announcements pretty close, like, BlizzCon.
Well, yeah.
But even then, it's only for the one expansion, not for all 3 throughout the year.
Okay.
But the new set's looking pretty good. I'm really excited about it because one of the main features is bringing the mech card type back, which was like not something not seen since the second expansion, Goblins versus Gnomes, way back in like 2014.
That game's that
That
old.
name sounds
Yeah.
awesome.
Goblins
Goblins
and
versus Gnomes.
It was a good expansion. Like it introduced a lot of RNG to the game, which people didn't like.
I can
But
see
personally, it was more flavorful and fun to experience that RNG in the game. Whereas now it's just kind of like, infuriating when it goes the bad way.
I like RNG in single-player games. I don't care for RNG in competitive games. And when you're playing
Yeah.
against other people and somebody lucks into a good hand, that sucks. I
But
don't have the experience with that, but
that's really all I did. Just looking at all the new reveals as they've been coming out throughout the week and
cool.
playing WoW here and there. Oh, and I did check out the new hero in Overwatch.
Okay.
I think his name is Hammond. He's like the hamster character.
I get it.
I've
In,
been seeing something
Hamster
about
Ball?
that.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. I played a few matches because I'm not really fond of Overwatch anymore.
But it's a Blizzard game, so you have to at least play it, right?
I mean, when the new characters come out, I play a couple games and I kind of lose interest quick because
That's
it's
cool.
not enough to pull me back in.
Yeah.
Just to get a little taste, and
Yeah,
you're good.
and it's been a long time since I played it, so I kind of checked out the new changes they made to certain characters. And I don't know, it's still not a game I want to play every day like other ones.
Gotcha.
Hearthstone. But I mean, it was pretty cool. He's a pretty decent character for a tank because he'll have a move where he'll launch a grappling hook on a wall, and then you can like spin around in the air in a hamster ball, hitting everybody.
Oh, that's
Nice.
cool. Okay, that's pretty neat. I like that.
His ultimate ability is to drop like a whole bunch of mines, like a minefield, to like protect an area from being like traversed through. So he's got a good area of effect, like defense. He's not like a lot of the other tank characters in the game, where it's about protecting your teammates.
Right.
He's more of a damage dealer.
Which is weird for a tank.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird classification for his character, but it works. It's fun to play.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Do either of you guys remember the Hamster Dance song from the early 2000s?
The hamster dance.
I think
Yeah.
you need to demonstrate it for us.
Oh, no. I can't. It's
At some point.
I
I
remember it from a movie called Sea Spot Run, but it's like this little techno song, and it's from one of those bands that was like animated characters, kind of like Gorillaz.
Mm.
So it was like supposed to be like coming from this character,
Gotcha.
and it's called the Hamster Dance song. And when I first saw that hamster in Overwatch, I immediately thought of that song.
I'm
and
writing
it
this
is
down in my phone. So
you
I
need
can
to look
remember
it up.
Look it up
I
later.
will.
it is fantastic. But it's my little
not mamster.
Would you like get up on top of the coffee table and pretend to do it when you were a kid, or?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
That was my jam.
I was like that with NSYNC and Bye Bye Bye
I can see that. I still kind of
and
am.
Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet's back.
Backstreet's back.
All
All right.
Yeah,
Right, all
larger
right,
than
all right.
life.
I can't think of any other Backstreet Boys songs. I want it that way. Done.
This is turning into a whole different podcast, but yeah, my when I was a kid, my cousin had the NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, and I would borrow her CDs and listen to them because that was all I had.
And as far as I know, I'm the only one who loved Eiffel 65's Blue.
High five me, bro.
We're high-fiving.
That was a horrible attempt. You guys didn't get to hear the first attempt because they missed completely.
They didn't need to know that, Kevin.
I think they did because I enjoyed it.
Made Kevin blue with laughter.
I'll tell you what, though, missing high fives is a big pet peeve of mine.
I still need to talk about my week. I didn't do a whole lot gaming-wise. I remember last week I was talking about that show Travelers on Netflix and how I wasn't going to binge it. I binge-watched the entire second season in one day.
Dang.
Well, Kyle and I went out and had a few drinks with a buddy of ours, shout out to Tyler, Friday after recording last week's podcast. Saturday, my old body was having a hard time keeping up after what I did on Friday. So Saturday, all day, all I did was just watch Netflix. It was a magnificent day. The show's not that
Sounds
good,
like it.
but it was worth watching, especially when you're in that state and you kind of just want to relax and do nothing and eat junk food. Yeah.
Nice.
And there was something else that I did, but I don't remember what I was going to talk about.
No Man's Sky, I think you were going to...
I was going to get there.
Yeah.
There was something else in between. Oh, yeah! Tommaso Ciampa's the new NXT champion. I was going to talk about that.
Of course.
That was exciting. NXT is always exciting, and I'm looking forward to TakeOver and SummerSlam weekend, but that's another podcast for another time. I did start playing No Man's Sky again after the next update. I gotta say, it's a fun game now. If you know what you're getting into when you're playing the game, it's exactly what it is, what you thought it was going to be when it first came out. This is what they should have released it at. This is 1.0 for No Man's Sky, in my opinion. Nice. And it is fun. I got it on PC this time, even though I already have it on PS4 because my fiance wanted it when it came out. But I got it on PC now, and I'm having a much better time controlling it with mouse and keyboard than I ever was with a controller. I started messing around with creative mode last night, and I got to say, there's a lot you can do in that. It is unlimited. Nice. It's great.
I haven't played the update yet, but seeing all the buzz about it on social media and gaming sites and stuff, it makes me really happy that people are coming around to it again, and that...
They had over 40,000 concurrent players on Steam the day that the patch was out. Yeah. That's crazy.
That makes me really happy as someone who loved it at the beginning when there wasn't much to it.
Right.
Makes me really happy that...
Test.
Yeah, basically.
That was alpha, pre-alpha.
I love that Sean Murray and...
sorry,
is it Hello Game?
Yeah. He's so self-aware.
Yeah.
It's great.
And that they took everything in stride. They buckled down and made sure to keep putting out updates and get the best product out there. And it's awesome.
All the credit in the world, at least for what the game is now, and Sean Murray and Hello Games in general, their outlook on what happened with the game and them just powering through and doing what they need to do to get the game to where the players are happy with it. And it's a fun game. If you know what the game is and don't expect it to be a game that makes you not have to play any other game ever, if you know that it's not that and it's a sandbox game, or it's a survival game, or it's however you want to play within the confines of it, if you know what you're getting into, it's a good game. It's well done.
Do you think I'd actually enjoy it this time around?
If you like any kind of survival game or any kind of creation sandbox game, yes. If not, no.
Definitely no.
Then no.
I would say that's one of my biggest pet peeves in gaming are these survival resource management type games.
So
does not appeal to me at all.
I don't think that classifies it for me as a pet peeve. I hate how many of them are coming out because especially 2 years ago, it was like 2 or 3 years ago, they were a trend, and it was like the forest. You had the original incarnation of H1Z1. I think before it was a zombie survival game before it was a battle royale game. Just all those games coming out at the same time that were clones of each other. That sucked.
Yeah, I mean, I tried playing Don't Starve, and I just could not get into it for the life of me.
Don't Starve is so much different. I'm not going to say it's better because it's just different. It's hard to compare the two. I like Clay as a developer, and I like the art style, and it got me more into Don't Starve than, say, The Forest. I never played that game. I don't like the survival games either. To me, this is a 3D Starbound now. No Man's Sky is, and I love Starbound. Which Starbound was sci-fi Terraria, which Terraria was a 2D Minecraft, so it's kind of just come full circle. This is Minecraft without the kid-looking graphic style to it, and in a setting that I like.
Yeah, I would say that because I've never cared for those survival-type games either, and this one, it's definitely there are elements of that where you have to have your stuff for your jetpack and your health and all that, but it's not as intensive, I guess the word would be, as those other ones, and that's why I enjoy, because I would never play those because that just sounds so draining to me, just constantly trying to find food and whatnot and all that.
Yeah.
So to me, I wouldn't classify it as that. I mean, if you don't care for those games at all, you
basically,
might, I don't view it as such.
It's a game that doesn't have so much of a linear story as it just gives you a sandbox to play whatever you want in an open setting. And it's fun. I still haven't tried out the multiplayer. I'd like to at some point, but like I've said in previous episodes, that I don't like multiplayer with people that I don't know. And nobody else has it that I know on PC. So
I think if we all had it, we'd get you to have fun, Kyle.
I think you would have fun with it with us all three playing, Kyle.
That'd be a challenge to you, boys.
When I opened up No Man's Sky, though, the first thing I notice is it loads you right into the game without you being able to go into the options menu. One of my biggest pet peeves in gaming. And that's where we're going to kick off this week's topic of talking about our pet peeves in video games, because we haven't been negative enough in this podcast. Got to get some of that negativity out because I can get fired up, man. When you're playing a PC game and it's starting to take forever to load and you want to be able to turn down those graphic options or be able to adjust your controls so you know what you're getting into before you jump right into the game, especially a survival game, if you can't access that options menu before you start playing the game, it's the most infuriating thing. Because it took like twice the amount of time to load, because I don't care about graphics in games. I turn off the anti-aliasing, I turn off VSync, I turn off the triple buffering, all that kind of crap. I don't need any of that in my games. I want it to load fast and run fast. So the fact that it seriously took, I think it was 7.5 minutes for me to load into the game from hitting play.
Jeez.
And then I was able, after it started telling, the tutorial that started popping up everywhere, then I was able to go into the options menu and turn the graphics down just to restart it and have it load for another 5 minutes before I could get back into the game and start playing.
Wow.
Annoying.
Yeah,
big pet peeve.
Yeah, me too.
There are a lot of PC games that do that, and you need to be able to access option menus.
I think Assassin's Creed Origins did that too on the PC version.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah. You had to go through that entire prologue in Siwa before you could access the main menu from the game, booting it up. And it was a bit of a slog to get through.
Yeah, I imagine.
That's why it took me so long to get into it at first, because I was like, I gotta watch all these cutscenes, and I don't want to spend an hour, just when I boot up the game, just to access like the basic gameplay.
That game, right at the beginning, throws you into that fight with the dude right at the very beginning, and it's giving you the combat tutorial.
Yep.
And it gave me controls. I was playing on PS4. It gave me controls that I'm not used to in a character action game, with using R1 and R2 as your light and heavy attacks. I'm used to using square and triangle. And it wasn't until after that first fight that I could change my controls around. And then when I finally got to it, I already missed the tutorial with those new controls, so I had to relearn the controls on my own anyway. So, fired up.
Nice. I would say, in line with that pet peeve, games or tutorials that are forced upon you. We've already kind of dabbled into that with the, like Mario and Zelda from the other week. But the things I find really annoying in gaming when you're first learning how to play it is it refers you to a controller map for the tutorial. I just close that window right away. That does not help me learn the game at all. I have to actually move my hands to get a feel for it.
Just see what the buttons do.
It gives me no context, like how it's going to feel.
Yeah, you don't know what a powered attack is versus a mega attack.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know what they are within the context of the game until you play the game.
Extremely vague.
There are a lot of games that do that.
Oh, man, too many. Like open world especially.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of them will just have the... Like, I remember Just Cause 2 had the controller map.
Oh, God.
And I was just like, this is useless. I need to be able to play the game to feel how the character moves in the game.
See, and the funny thing is, with me being the old person that I am, that's, I guess, the recurring joke in my life is that I'm old. When I learn controls by myself, my own way, I miss out on a bunch of different things that I didn't know I could do until later on in the game.
I've had instances of that, yeah.
Yeah. I wish I could think of some examples, but my old brain won't let me think of any.
I hate when I forget. And then I have to go into the options and look at the map to figure, that's how you do it. Damn it.
You know what else Assassin's Creed is really bad at? When you're following a character and you're following them along, Gears of War does this. Every game where you're having an escort mission or you have to listen to dialogue while walking, the character that you're following has a different speed of walking than the player. If you walk, you're going too slow. If you run, you're going too fast, and you can't why can't they just program that person that you're following to have the same speed as the player at full speed, so they don't have to guess?
To match your movements.
Well, even then, some kind of rubber banding of some kind would be nice, but Yeah, even just have them go at the player's full speed so they don't have to guess if the player has the thumbstick halfway or all the way. Mm-hmm. And just time the dialogue to be from point A to point B to take place in between those.
You know, about those scripted events, like when you're interacting with a character and you're moving to a quest destination and they're giving this exposition, I just find myself always trying to match their pace, and
and then they slow down, and then they speed up, and then they slow down because they're trying to rubber band to you.
But I never pay attention to what they're saying because I'm too focused on matching their speed, and I miss everything they're saying. It doesn't sink in.
That's a good thing about Assassin's Creed, that the stories have always sucked, so you don't need to know.
I feel like in Origins, though, they had it where if you started running, they would be running after you, though.
Yeah, for me, it was delayed just enough to where their dialogue was so quiet. Like, they were catching up, and then they get way ahead. The dialogue was so quiet, so I had to keep reading it, and by that point, I couldn't keep track of, like Kyle was saying, my speed compared to their speed. It's a mini-game. It's like one of those stupid hacking mini-games.
Like, for an open-world game, it's trying to get you immersed in the game.
Right.
That just takes me completely out of it.
It's like I'm playing a game, and when you're walking with somebody in real life, you tend to walk at the same pace if you're having a conversation.
You would think that something so basic in social interaction
and this
would be easily emulated in a game.
This has been happening in games since the dawn of third-person... 3D games.
Yeah.
It's something that seems like it should be such an easy fix.
Like for Gears, like he's always talking to himself on the headset.
Oh my god, I have that. Robert was just going to say it. And
I was going to say that's how they circumvented that. Was everyone slowed down when you were doing that?
That was the next one that I was going to talk about. Is when you're talking to somebody on a comm, particularly in Gears of War, but a lot of other games have followed suit, and you have to slow down while you're going through that, and then you can start running as soon as it's over. It's just. Either have it as a cutscene or just let me walk and listen.
Really? Yeah.
Like, play and listen.
I agree with that.
It's obnoxious.
Well, sticking with Gears of War, when I was playing 4, something that made me think of my pet peeves was, you know how like they have the Horde Mode?
Yeah.
Whatever, in the... I think it was called something different in 4. Either way, I never played those modes. Any kind of wave-based combat or anything like that just... isn't for me.
They're fun for a minute for me.
Yeah.
That's about it.
And what they did in 4 is they actually incorporated moments of that into the main game, the campaign.
Really?
Yeah. And
that's kind of what turned me off to Crackdown 2.
Probably
similar. It wasn't the same, but it was similar.
Right. But they, like, you had this box called the Fabricator, and you had it in, like, your area you're protecting, and you can... build like fortifications, miniguns, and all that stuff from it.
Yeah.
And then you have like a minute and a half to set up, your guns or whatever, and then the wave starts. And they put that in the campaign, and I think 4 or 5 different spots. And that is something that's a huge pet peeve for me because I don't care about that at all. I hate being in one situation for too long.
Yeah.
Like I want to kill the enemies, move on, continue with the story, have forward motion.
That's what Gears 1 was all about.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And yeah, it's a good game, but that just bugged me a lot because I hate just standing in one spot facing waves and waves of enemies.
Like, you probably would hate every single turret segment in a game then.
Oh my god, those forced turret segments are the worst.
Yeah.
It depends, but
I mean, they can be fun mowing down enemies, but when you're doing it a lot.
10, 15 minutes and you're still in the same place,
For me, it's kind of forgivable when you're playing one of those segments and you're able to rip the turret from its base and walk around with it, even if it's at a slowed down pace. I think Horizon Zero Dawn was the last one that I played that you could do stuff like that.
I think the Halo games, the later ones you could do that too.
Yeah, it wasn't a turret so much with the Horizon, it was just a big gun that you'd shoot off of an enemy.
Yeah.
But you'd still walk around with it rather than being planted there. So if you needed to roll, you could drop it and roll pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember a lot of those games in particular, they have certain kind of missions as well. For me, a big pet peeve of mine is any sort of escort mission.
I'll delete that from my list.
I figure that's on every gamer's list.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good time to bring it up now. Basically, along with the walk speed thing, when you're listening to those scripted events, escort missions in general, when you're having to control a character and guide them with such bad AI that you're having to constantly redo it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're being attacked.
Yeah,
and you're supposed to keep them alive.
You're right.
Yeah, I hate that.
It's like, I want to worry about myself. Let me worry about myself. And it's funny, too, because how I have that written down is terribly written / scripted companions, and then in parentheses, escort missions, and companion walking speed not matching players. So I had that lumped together as well.
Yeah, I have several of those. Like, along with escort missions, there's like trailing, or I call them follow missions. A good example of this would be like any kind of Grand Theft Auto game when you're having to follow a target.
Yeah, that's pretty bad, too.
Those drive me nuts because you can't go too close, you can't be too far away, you have to be a certain medium distance.
Yeah.
God, that's crazy.
Black Flag, when you were in your ship and you had to trail other ships.
Oh, God.
That was
That's bringing
the
back
worst.
some bad memories.
And that's a fantastic
that
game,
game.
but yeah, those are...
Yeah.
When you had
Hated
to,
those.
yeah, when you have to tail people, and then you got to stay out of their line of sight, but you got to stay in earshot.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
It's annoying. Yeah.
or like in Assassin's Creed when you have to stay in that little circle.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah. AC in general has always been like that. Even since the first one, you've had to eavesdrop on people and do stuff like that and be within a certain range. But when it's like in a vehicle that turns like a ship, or if it's it was just or in a car in GTA.
And especially if they had bad checkpointing and you would have to start at the beginning of the mission. God.
Oh, memories. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
With GTA, I know we talked about this before in another episode. And if you missed it, you could listen to those old episodes on CastBox or on YouTube or iTunes or wherever. But it's a little cheap plug there. When we talked about this specifically with GTA San Andreas, those flying missions, when you had to go through the hoops and do everything so perfectly. And yeah, I know you don't need to do those all the time in games, but when you have a mission that you have to do and you can't go on and you need that precise movement and just for that one small portion of the game, and then you don't use that anywhere else. It's like going to high school. You learn all this stuff, and then after high school, you don't use any of that information.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of drivers on the road, pretty much, everything goes out the window when it comes to the real world.
Got my license.
Yeah.
Can forget everything else now.
Don't even know how to drive.
Drink and drive? Hell yeah, let's go.
We do not endorse drinking and driving.
Absolutely
on this
not.
Podcast. That is dumb. Don't do it.
Exactly.
But yeah, any of those missions. There was another one that. Fetch missions. And when they're just lazily thrown in, when they don't make sense to the story, when it's just, hey, I need this thing, and you look like a capable person. Can you fetch me these 3 boglin horns?
Pretty much every MMO quest ever,
Yeah.
basically.
I was specifically referencing Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild there with the boglins.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, any fetch quest that doesn't pertain to the story of the character you're playing in the game is just a time sink. It's so annoying.
It's trying to fill out the world.
Yeah. It's pointless. If you have an open world, just put stuff that people would actually be interested in doing to explore your world naturally.
Yeah.
You would think with those types of worlds, like a lot of these pet peeves of ours, they would be analyzed closely to try and fix players from experiencing those and making negative comments about the game.
I'm thinking games in general are getting better at that. And Breath of the Wild always comes to mind.
I mean, there was still some pet peeves of that, like with
The tutorial.
climbing and the rain system, and you would slip.
The rain was awful.
Yeah.
It just grinds the game to a halt when it's raining and you can't do what you're doing. Because if you get sidetracked and go do something else, you're going to forget what you're trying to do in the first place. That game's so big.
I mean, you would think developers would take more time to look into stuff like that.
Yeah.
And implement some of those changes. I mean, another one I was going to bring up here were like invisible walls.
I was just trying to talk about that.
Like for me, I was playing Origins, Assassin's Creed, and then I would be sailing on the sea, and if I would go too far out, I just see a giant white wall, like you cannot pass, and I'm just like, this is so dumb. Like I understand why, but at the same time, it just took me out of the game.
The game that I think did this the best in avoiding, in an open world game, avoiding those kind of walls was Horizon Zero Dawn. because they just made them mountains that you couldn't climb.
Mm-hmm.
And within the context of the game, it always made sense. It wasn't just a barrier that you couldn't cross because your character forgot how to walk once you got to a certain point, or Battlefront or Battlefield, when you walk past a certain point, you're gonna die because you're outside of the zone for 5 seconds.
Yeah,
it's like, well, crap, I'm trying to get back in the zone, but I can't get back in the zone fast enough. I'm gonna die.
There's good and bad ways about that. I mean, I know in World of Warcraft, if you go out into the ocean too far, you'll start getting fatigued.
Yeah,
and that makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean, you're gonna drown or something.
Right.
But in games like Call of Duty or Battlefield, I always thought that was stupid. How they're like, "You're going AWOL, soldier. You better get the fuck back here before you piss me off." That's what it sounded like when he was yelling at
after you. Or...
I was like, really? I'm just gonna leave then. Exit out
when
of this
faced
gate.
with adversity, just walk away.
The Mad Max game did it good too, where you could drive out past the map, but it just got increasingly more dangerous. I guess kind of like what you were saying out on the ocean, where there's more storms and stuff like that, and you can keep driving, but you're gonna die. So
remember how games used to do that when you would just fall in the water and you just instantly collapse because your character doesn't know how to swim. Touch water and just just melt and die.
The beginning Assassin's Creed.
GTA's too.
Yeah,
a lot of games. John Marston in particular.
It's like, why have water then? If I touch it, I'm gonna die. I would actually prefer an invisible wall at that point, saying, my character doesn't know how to swim, back away or something, rather than just touching the water wasted.
It would be kind of funny to see your character just be like, I can't do that.
There's probably been games that have done that, too.
That'd be a clever way to do it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when you start walking towards the edge, oh, that's stupid, I can't do that. Force you back.
We're talking a lot about open world games again.
God, it's like we like them or something.
Well, I can kind of steer in another direction.
Well, I have another one that's very, very common in open world games. It's in a lot of other games as well, but like massively reused assets. Levels that are identical or pieces of levels that are identical that are supposed to be completely different. Mm-hmm. And the biggest offender to me was Dragon Age 2.
Oh, man.
Because you just keep having to re-go to the same places over and over, even to progress the story. And that never made any sense to me. If you clear out this hut one time, why would you have to go back and clear it out from different enemies the second time? Mm-hmm. Or if it's supposed to be a totally different place, why does it look identical, tile for tile, from this place that I've already cleared?
Yeah, I've always remembered for Dragon Age 2, it was always the same cave system.
Uh-huh.
And it was full of different enemies.
Yeah, and sometimes a chest would be in a different spot or something, but it's like, come on, just a little originality. I prefer procedural generation to that. And I like procedural generation to an extent, but I would much prefer handcrafted levels in a game like that.
Yeah.
But if I had the choice between the same level over and over again or procedural generation, give me procedural generation. How many times can I say that phrase in like 5 seconds?
Try it.
Procedural generation. I'm not going to try it anymore. No, now I'm put on the spot. I'm not going to say it again. All right, go steer away to another.
Well, I was thinking more so along the lines of like the user interface. So I know for me a big one is subtitles. I like having subtitles in games.
I do too. Mm-hmm.
I wish that was a default option.
In a lot of games it is now.
Well, no, I mean I like having them on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And usually you have to go to the menu to turn them on.
For me it's about 50-50. A lot of times 50% of the time.
It does seem to be more and more common.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, then maybe I'm mistaken then.
Well, I mean, it's a thing that used to be the norm. You'd have to go in and turn them on.
Yeah.
It was just up until the last few years or so.
Mm. And the reason why I put them on is because there are segments in games where these characters are having a dialogue, and the music or action scenes are way louder.
It's because of terrible TV speakers, and if you don't have a sound bar or a surround sound system, you're using your terrible TV speaker like I do as well, on my console at least, then the music always gets louder than the dialogue. It happens in movies and stuff to me too.
Oh, all the time, all the time.
Robert looks like he was going to say something.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, well,
okay.
I was going to say, I use subtitles because my daughter just playing around or whatever, and she'll be yelling and stuff, and so I got to put subtitles on so I can actually hear.
Small text in HD gaming.
That's a funny one to
Like
me.
when God of War first came out.
Yeah,
it was so hard
that.
to read anything.
Oh my goodness!
Even though I was like 8 feet away from the TV, the text was so small.
I
couldn't
was
see
sitting about,
anything.
I think about 10 to 12 feet away from my 65-inch TV, and I had to like sit on my coffee table to play that game.
I don't think I'm turning old yet, but I feel old when I have to squint to see what the hell it's saying.
Well, it's because they test those games on a 15-inch 1080p monitor. I'm sure.
Yeah, more than likely.
I would imagine.
It's kind of what surprised me when I booted up The Witcher 3 last night is they actually, in the menu and like looking at your inventory and stuff, you can click the right stick or whatever on Xbox and it makes the item description bigger or smaller. And I've never seen that before in a game. I thought that was kind of cool. You have the option if you're blind, hard to see, you can make it bigger.
I know in God of War now they patched that in because there's so many complaints about it.
There are a couple other along those lines that bug me in RPGs that don't have voice acting. When you can't either skip the dialogue, not skip it, but like fast, like make it just pop up so you can read it.
Boxes,
yeah. If you can't change the speed of the text boxes or just make it appear all at once.
Oh yeah.
So if you have to read it all like that, it's so annoying. The other thing that bugs me, and it's just because I find it funny, is typos in subtitles.
Oh, God.
I hate them, but I love it too because I like to point them out and be like, "Hey, I know how to spell that word, and you don't." It happens less and less frequently anymore, but it used to be a thing. Two Worlds was great because it was such a horrible game. The typos and the voice acting, bad voice acting is another one. I love.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I love to hate it, but Two Worlds had some of the most atrocious voice acting in an open world, fully voiced game.
Along those lines, then, one I just thought of is open world games, or any game really that reuses voice actors
for different
multiple
characters.
And
Yeah.
Skyrim was a big offender. Even though they had a bunch more voice actors than they did from Oblivion, there was still way too many instances of even people looking the same, too.
Fallout 3 was a big offender.
Yeah. It's
There
like the
was, like,
same
maybe-
5 people talking.
Yeah. Yeah, it was terrible.
I understand why they do it because you only have so much of a budget. It's easier to get the same voice actors to do multiple characters.
But at least try to do different voice if you're
Right.
the same person.
Yeah. My name is Billy. My name is Frank. My name is George.
Yeah.
Let's try. Try to sound like a George.
I was also thinking of basically anything with unskippable cutscenes
That was my next one.
or pausing, not able to pause cutscenes.
That is huge, especially
for
nowadays
replaying.
when
A game.
people have to get up and tend to their lives, if something happens, like with Robert. If he
Sometimes
hears
my
his,
daughter hits herself in the head, and I have to. Either I can just keep watching the game and be like, "No, you're fine, sweetie," or I can hopefully pause it and go up and get her. So
Yep. Absolutely.
I would always get her 100%, but you get my meaning.
Yeah. It's usually not her you have to worry about, it's me hitting myself. Now, Kevin, you need to stop doing that. Then you can unpause.
Quit hitting yourself. Yeah. I'll go with one that we haven't covered, which I'm surprised, is timed missions.
I'll take that off my
Oh,
list.
that's a good one.
There we go.
That wasn't even
See,
on my list.
that's...
Huh.
I don't know. It could just be me, like with the wave-based thing. I hate that, but I know people love that. I don't like timed missions, especially when they're... Most of the games I play, they're side things, so I just end up not doing them. Like Far Cry 5 is the one I can think of recently, where they had the stunt missions that you could do, and I just hate those missions where you're timed. You have to do this in a certain time, or like with flying, you have to fly through the rings and stuff in a certain time. And
like I said, Horizon Zero Dawn, the one set of missions I did not do were the Hunter Lodge missions.
Any of those kind of things.
I hate time trials. I hate talking clearly too.
I mean, I might be in the minority, but I actually find those kind of fun.
I don't know if you're actually in the minority or not.
They
I don't
put them
know.
in games because people like them.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
mean, we might be on
I
one
enjoy
side.
the challenge of it, and I
Exactly.
feel like I'm learning the game better by doing those.
See, I like to play a game at my own pace, and it doesn't matter what type of game it is. Any game I'm playing, I want to play it at my own pace, and I feel like I'm being judged is what it is, and I don't
That's a
want
good
to
way to
feel
put it,
like
yeah.
I'm being judged the way I play a game.
You're not playing this game as good as we think you should be playing
Right.
it. Yeah.
It's like we just heard about the developers of Vampire making their easy mode easier and their hard mode harder, just giving
Story
a wider
mode,
giving a wider range of options. It's the lack of judgment, and that's what I love about games. But when timed missions, I feel like I'm constantly being judged. It's like, oh my, I missed it by 1 second. I am the absolute worst scumbag in the world. I shouldn't be playing this game. Give me a refund.
I mean, I agree with you. It's frustrating when you miss it by like a second or two.
Right.
Yeah. Especially if it's in a main story quest, like GTA. Big offender, yeah.
That's a good point. Another type of mission I hate in gaming is the no damage missions. Usually with challenge modes, like you were bringing up with time missions.
Yeah, that's when I stopped the
God of War.
God of War trials.
Yeah. Basically, any challenge involving no damage, don't get hit. I hate those.
Yeah.
That's BS.
I know they're there for the perfectionists and for the people that want to 100% a game and that strive to know every single aspect of the game and beat it to the absolute most possible, but it's so annoying.
And there's another version of that, too, like for open world games, again. Grand Theft Auto had missions where if you're driving a car, you can't damage it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember in GTA 5, it was the repo one, I think, like the side missions for those.
Yeah.
Where you had to get cars from, take them back to the dealership or whatever. God, I was just trying to get back as fast as I can. And of course, my car gets wrecked, and I get no good rewards from it. And I'm like, God, I hate missions like that.
Or missions where you have to, like, carry somebody.
Oh,
and so you're walking purposely slower, and Gears of War had moments like that. Where,
Assassin's Creed.
That's an escort mission and a slow down character walking slower. It's just why it's not
mission.
fun.
Damn.
If you're super invested in the story, if you're a super story-driven game, it can be impactful, but it's usually not.
No,
it's usually just a slog that you have to get through. Forced motion controls are one of the worst things about games at all. Yeah, Nintendo's definitely the biggest offender there. Super Mario, Legend of Zelda. I started playing some of those shrine trials that you were talking about where you have to
that was fun.
Twist the controller in ways that you didn't think you could even move your hands.
Yeah, it sucks. Huh?
It's like, why can't I just use the thumbsticks? Just let me use the thumbsticks.
Really? Yeah.
It's like, I realize you can still walk and move the camera with the thumbsticks while you're doing that. Yeah. No, you can't.
Oh,
because you're at a console.
You're at a console and you're stuck.
So why not just let you, if you can't move with the thumbsticks anyway, just, it's not even an option.
Nope.
You have to, even if you turn the motion controls off, you still have to do the motion controls for that. With the Pro Controller, whether you're in docked mode or handheld mode, I can't imagine doing that in handheld mode because then you'd have to twist your face around with it. There's some really weird finessing and it never makes sense. The more you think you're understanding it, the less you actually are. At least that was my experience with it. I did 2 of those, and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm done with these. I don't need 100% the shrines.
Indeed.
Another thing with, I think Kyle might be on me with this. I don't know so much about you, Kevin, but because I know you're a perfectionist, you like 100%ing things. One thing that bugs me is when there's like achievements or trophies for the multiplayer.
Exactly.
Right?
I hate that.
I'll have to get rid of that one too.
You too, really? Yeah, it just
drives me off the wall. Like nuts.
Because it's a good feeling when I get 1,000 gamer score points or whatever, or all the achievements in a game. But when there's so many, and I think the Halo games were big on this, where the majority of them were for multiplayer. So I could beat the game, and I'd only have like 200 score.
Call
and I'm
of Duty went that way too after a while.
And it's
even Rocket League. Even Rocket League. I mean, that game is, of course, meant to be played online, but you don't have to play it online. But to 100% it, you do. Yeah,
Last of Us, Tomb Raider reboot, Gears of War, Halo series.
You wrote a list.
Jeez.
Yeah, I did.
The Last of Us had that, really?
Yeah. Stupid.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I don't get it. It's like, if you have multiplayer achievements, why not just put them...
Have it as a separate application where you get achievements from.
Like, not even achievements. Like, just put them as, like, a progress bar in the multiplayer component of the game.
And you can unlock things via those rather than having to pay for microtransactions.
Loot boxes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We should make our own game.
Another single-player trope that I hate is, and God of War is one of the biggest offenders of this, is when you start off the game and you're super powered, and then, oh no, I lost all of my powers, and now I have to get them all back.
That just happened in World of Warcraft. That sucked.
That is one of the biggest, like, story. They always try to make it work within the confines of the story. It's like, okay, you beat God of War and you're all super powered, so God of War 2, you have to have something happen to get all these things taken away. Why not just start off with that, but make the enemies like as difficult as they were at the end of the previous game and work up to something more? It's just it seems super lazy to me.
Makes no sense.
I hate that, getting that taste of all that
Yeah.
power and stuff. I think, if I remember correctly, it's been a long time, but I think the first Darksiders was like that, where you started out the first mission or whatever, and you had all your powers.
You are correct.
And then you lost them, and you had to rebuild them. And
it gives you like a hint of things to come.
There's another sequel coming out, and I forget what it is now. But that's what made me think of this, is because they said that that's how it's going to be in the game. Because you started off the end of the first one super powered, and
at least they're upfront about it.
Powers taken away. I don't remember what game it was, but it was a game I was interested in, I think. God, I have a terrible memory.
You're getting old.
Yeah.
Well, I know for me, one of the things I like to do is turn it up to a harder difficulty. And, you know, if it's a good challenge, it's great fun. But when the enemies become bullet sponges, that's stupid.
Yeah, when it's just a matter of, it's like a battle of attrition. You just have to outlast the enemy rather than implement the strategies that you've learned.
I mean, like playing God of War, I turn it up to hard and thinking, oh, okay, it'll
be a fun challenge.
Yeah, and then I play it for like an hour, and it's still like mind-numbingly crazy how many times you have to hit the same Draugr over and over. I'm just like, woohoo!
Gears of War is like all those games are like that, where the enemies are. There's no strategy; they're all just bullet sponges.
Man. I mean, particular enemy types. I was also thinking of this. Force Unleashed. I'm pretty sure you know which enemies I'm talking about. But in the first game, they're like those giant troopers that had shields, I think.
Okay, yeah.
And they would just take forever to kill.
Okay. Any shielded enemy in any game just pisses me off.
Like in Mass Effect 3, you got the troops with the giant shield in front of them. You had to shoot at their feet just to kill them.
Destiny 2 has a lot of that, too.
Yeah.
I think it was Destiny 2. I don't remember.
Gears of War is a big offender for all these because they had that, too.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and exactly. You got to find that little sliver of either their foot or the top of their head.
Or the little window they're looking through in the shield.
Right.
I mean, God, it's infuriating.
Call of Duty had that, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Juggernaut, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
The Modern Warfare 2.
I think so, yeah.
Any heavily armored enemy that you just have to exploit by doing stupid shit like that, it just drives me up the wall.
Yeah. If it was a matter of strategy, like sometimes it's implemented well enough to where you have a tool that's used to like entangle them or snare them, and you can get behind them and hit them. But if it's in a shooter and that's all you have are guns,
or hopefully land a grenade behind them.
Right? Yeah. You gotta hope for the best with that.
I mean, I was trying to come up with some other ideas. I'm getting near the end of my list now that I wrote down. But basically, another pet peeve of mine is like needlessly repetitive hacking mini games. BioShock 1 is a big offender of this with the sliding tile puzzles with the pipes.
BioShock, Mass Effect.
Yeah, Mass Effect.
Lockpicking mini games that are just terrible.
Any Bethesda game.
Yeah.
Basically.
Skyrim. I hate lockpicking.
I mean, they're just so tedious, and after you do it the first 100 times, it's like, okay, we get it. And it just takes up a huge amount of time.
Yeah, they're trying to add something more that you don't need. I'd rather just hit one button to unlock it, or hack this. You hit one button and boom.
Your hacking skill's not level 3, you can't do it. Or you have a hacking skill of level 4, you can open this now.
Yeah.
And then one button press opens. And
that ties into what also annoys me in games is needlessly looting everything in games that have things to loot just for the sake of having things to loot.
Like Fallout
And Assassin's Creed Origins.
Oh,
Like,
that was supposed to be to get money.
Well, still, I mean, having to use eagle vision to even detect the loot,
Yeah.
I would constantly be running through a town holding the D-pad, like, up. And as I'm running to my destination, I'm just constantly scanning for loot.
Yep.
And then I would just ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
And it's like, why am I doing this?
It gets to the point where you don't even need money in the game.
Yeah, but I still do it because I'm an OC. I mean, Bioshock Infinite was also a good example of this.
Mhm.
I mean, there's so many things you can loot in that game for health, or mana, or whatever it's called in the game. But it just got so repetitive looting, like everywhere, checking for loot.
Breath of the Wild is like a lot like that too.
It is.
And the inventory management system in that game is horrible.
It really is.
But that brings me to weapon durability, and not just how terribly it was implemented in that game, but going all the way back to Diablo 2 and other ARPGs. I didn't mind it as much then because it's supposed to be a money sink. It's supposed to make sure you kill other enemies to get the gold to be able to repair your weapons before they break or your SOL. But in some games like Breath of the Wild, it's just so horribly done to where you got to constantly keep changing things instead of finding something that works for you and that's something that's fun and sticking with it. Like at least in Assassin's Creed, if you wanted a sword, you could play with the sword. If you wanted a pole arm, you could use a pole arm. In Zelda, if you use a pole arm 6 times, oh crap, it's broken. You got to go onto your axe or your pitchfork or whatever the hell else you have.
I mean, when I talked about Zelda in my top 5 games, I mean, there's a lot of things about Zelda that drove me nuts.
Yeah.
And that's one of them.
Yeah.
The other thing is the cooking system, where you have to individually gather ingredients.
Yeah, I wish
selecting them.
I wish after the first time you made something, it would pop up in a recipes list,
That too.
and you could just pick recipes, cook this.
Mm-hmm.
After the first time you discover the recipe.
I mean, I was really looking forward to this particular topic because of Breath of the Wild and the Zelda series in particular.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of mentioned it 2 weeks ago with Skyward Sword, how it would baby you constantly.
Yeah.
Like hand-holding in games. That's a big one.
The horrible tutorials.
That just drives me nuts.
Tutorials. Tutorials.
Tutorials.
I mean,
Hashtag.
Speaking of hashtags, forced online connectivity. When you have to be connected to the internet to be able to play a game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that is the worst. And there are companies now that are learning that, hey, people don't like this so much. And EA's the worst.
Oh, yeah.
There's SimCity, the last SimCity that came out.
Yep.
I mean, there's no way to play that game with other people. You're playing a single-player game, and yet you had to play it online. And it was probably their anti-pirating stuff that tried to ensure... I mean, people still pirated that game anyway, and it was the pirates that got to play offline. You're just hurting the people that are actually playing or paying for the actual game.
Exactly.
Open your damn eyes.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys remember online passes.
Yeah. Yeah.
EA was also a big offender.
They were the pioneer of that.
I mean, the fact that for console gaming you have to even pay a yearly fee to play online, where PC gamers don't have to do that.
This could be a whole other topic of
it really can't be.
Of pre-order bonuses and microtransactions and all that stuff, but I don't want to get into that today.
Okay, then I'll skip all that stuff.
That will get me way too fired up. And I would legitimately get angry rather than just this silly angry that I'm getting now talking about this petty stuff.
But speaking of like force things on you, I think one of the things a game developer can do is forced co-op in a single-player campaign.
What do you mean?
So, like, for example, like with survival horror, Resident Evil 4 was single-player, but in Resident Evil 5, you had an AI partner.
Oh.
And you had to go through the whole game with that AI partner.
Well, that's kind of an escort mission at that point.
Technically...
It's an escort game.
But still, I mean, to get, like,
not to be confused with my weekend activities. Says me. Never mind.
I mean, Dead Space 3 is also, a really bad example of this. Like, there was nothing wrong with it being a single-player game. Mm-hmm. But, of course, EA, in an appeal to get more demographic,
Yeah.
more of an audience. They forced this co-op campaign. And what sucked about that game in particular was that in certain segments of the game, you would branch off, and you could only experience that content as that co-op character.
Gotcha.
So if you're playing single player, you never get to see that. And some cool happens. Like, I give them props for that. Like, as the side character, you see some cool stuff happen in Dead Space 3. But if you don't have someone to play it with, you never see that.
And this isn't to say that there are games that are meant for forced co-op, like A Way Out or Army of Two.
I was going to say, that's another one.
Army of Two is not in the negative on this. That game was built for two people. You're supposed. It's in the name of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the game, but there are single player games that do that, and it does piss me off too. I get your point.
Yep.
There's a trope in a lot of single player games where the bad guy will kill your dog, and that's supposed to get you emotionally vested. But if in the game the dog's not really utilized or part of the story, or you don't see the backstory of the dog, why does it matter? And it's not always a dog. It could be a brother or a lover or something like that. Just like Fable 2.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the first thing I think of.
Yeah. It's such lazy writing. That's less of a video game pet peeve, more of a media pet peeve. Movie, TV show, book pet peeve.
Well, then you're in a world of pain when you watch John Wick, then.
Spoilers! But,
God! I was talking about not being able to access the PC options menu before starting a game. What about the lack of options in PC gaming?
Oh, man.
When a game comes out and you can't change either the controls, which is heresy on a PC. You have to be able to change your controls. I hate it when a game assumes that I'm using my controller that's plugged in rather than asking me. It's a weird little pet peeve of mine. A lot of games, they'll say press A to use, like right at the beginning, press A to use the controller or spacebar to use mouse and keyboard or whatever. Yeah. When it just assumes and it locks out the keyboard, so I have to find wherever the controller is and hit the start button and then go to the options menu and deactivate the controller, and the controller vibration's another thing. I hate controller vibration in video games. But
really?
It's useless to me. I don't understand
I kind of see it as immersive. I mean, I know for me personally, like, what takes me out of the game would be like a save system where you actually go out to the UI of the console to do the save. Like, a good example of this would be PlayStation 3. Every time you would save a game, it would bring up the overlay for PS3.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it would be like, the whole Sony thing. Mm-hmm. And it would put like a little picture like you were saved. Like, I remember playing...
Was weird.
It was weird. Like,
every PlayStation 3 game, too.
Every single one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's why I
It was just how the
console
console saved,
Dead Space on Xbox, like, it was immersive. Like, the whole saving system was within the game.
Mm-hmm.
But in the PS3 version, it jumps out of the game itself, and it was so jarring. I mean, that was just crazy.
I had forgotten about that.
I was hoping you were going to explain how controller vibration is immersive. I don't get it.
Okay, so basically, one of the first games I really experienced with Rumble was Star Fox 64.
Same here, yes.
Did you like that?
I did at the time because it was new. It was new. Like, I had just gotten the Rumble pack. I don't think I ever owned that game, but I did own a Rumble pack, and I rented that game.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Rumble is an immersive tool because when you're in a action scene, there are certain points where, like, I can only think of one off the top of my head right now. But Gears of War, I think if I recall correctly, the Lancer, when you do the battle, it shakes. Mm-hmm. And then you have to constantly mash the button. Like, that's great the first few times, but I can see your point where that would get tiresome after a while.
Like, if I'm in a sword fight in real life, my hands aren't going to start vibrating whenever I'm getting hit in the face with something.
Oh, no, but I mean, like, just for Gears of War, like the Lancer, like,
I can see
it's
that. Or
shake.
Like the Doom chainsaw.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Or
Stuff
driving
like that.
a car. I could.
Yeah.
But it's just a needless thing for me to automatically have on at full. I do love it when games put in, like, an option for level of vibration. Like, they let you turn it down or turn it off completely.
See, I like it with... I didn't realize how much I was used to it in shooters until the other day when my controller stopped working for like a few minutes. Like
we take it for granted now.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where I don't really notice it, but when it's not there, then I notice. Like in Gears of War, when you're shooting, you have that subtle vibration every bullet, and then for some reason my controller stopped vibrating for like 5 minutes until I took the battery out and put it back in, and I immediately noticed, and it just felt weird, and it felt like I wasn't shooting, or it was mostly like the feedback in the trigger.
Gotcha.
You get that little tactile feeling every time you shoot, and when that wasn't there, it's like I felt like I wasn't doing anything.
I fully realize that I'm in the minority here with the rumble, but it was something that was really cool in the 64 days when it was first introduced. But after that, to me, it's just it should be an option, not always on.
I mean, there's some cool things that happen with it. Like there would be a gameplay mechanic where if you're like trying to detect something, the rumble pack will actually like shake or something.
Yeah, if you're close to a secret, the rumble. Yeah. In certain games, yeah.
I mean that I always found that really immersive.
Yeah, I could see that.
Backtracking in video games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's instances where it's right and instances where it's wrong. A huge example of this is the ending of Dishonored 2. That's just backtracking done wrong. Because you spend the whole first level like learning the layout and getting used to the mechanics. And then you go back to that area and you steamroll it. I mean, I kind of get what they're doing, but it's stupid. Like
Is it to make you feel like you're more powerful than you were when you started the game?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I know we already covered that, but there's good instances of backtracking. I think really good examples of this are like games like BioShock or Prey or any kind of hub-based game where you see changes to the environment, like God of War.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Like backtracking is great in that regard, but when it's just going back for the sake of repeating what you've already done, that's awful. Pet peeve.
So I'm not a fan of it when you're in like an area, like I think the Tomb Raider reboot was like this, where there's certain areas in a level where she can't get to because she doesn't have that piece of equipment yet or that skill yet, so you move on, and then you get that thing later, and you have to go back to get whatever was up there, treasure,
which is really satisfying. I think.
See, I can't stand that because then it's like, okay, I know I got to come back here, and it's
when it's forced like that. I kind of agree with Robert on this. I don't like it as much.
I mean, you get that progression like in a Metroidvania game.
Yeah. Like
you get a certain ability and you get to explore a new area or secret, and that's really awesome. Like, it's really satisfying.
God of War, when you can see it, but you just can't open it because you don't have the right magic ability. That's when it pisses me off. Because you have to go back specifically to open that one chest, and that's it.
Yeah.
That irritates me. But yeah, in Metroidvania games, it's nice because it can open up a new area or even a whole new secret level in some instances. I do like that. I get both your points. You guys are very smart, intellectual people who make very good points.
You're very smart for understanding.
I don't remember what you just said because I'm old. Well, let us know what you guys hate in video games. What are your pet peeves? Are ours a little too petty? You know, I kind of think a couple of mine were, but that's all right. Let us know what you think. Hit us up on Twitter, @PushingButtonsP. Check out our website for all of our links, pushingbuttonspodcast.com. Feel free to like or dislike. If you hated the video, you can dislike it too, but whatever. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to us on CastBox, iTunes, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we will see you next time.
Adios.
Good night.